That's good.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Hey, so one thing I want to go over this is the 7 steps to solving a problem. I know that we have throughout the year, you've continued to have to solve many problems, right? But do you actually really have a process? I think this is a really great process of when it comes to like just trying to solve problems, solve issues, things that come up in life. And James actually talked about this just here a little bit before of like, well, when you can't reach that person, when you can't, for some odd reason, Missy's in a meeting, James is in a meeting, I'm in a meeting, maybe you couldn't get it from the leadership for one reason or another, right? You've got these resources, you're like, okay, so what do I do now? This is actually perfect timing. Here's 7 steps that you can do to solve a problem or solve problems in your life, solving anything, right? So first one is this: put everything on paper, right? When we have a problem, one of the things that gives us anxiety is the fear of the unknown, is the fear of like, well, what could happen? Oh my gosh, I'm really freaking out, right? So put it on paper because fear has no place on paper. Remember that. Fear has no place on paper. So you want to write all of it out. Get it all out so that you really understand exactly what the problem is that you're looking for. Data dump it, right? So if you've got this problem that you just can't overcome and you're just like, I have no idea what area to go, you've got to data dump everything on paper, right? Know all of the facts, all of the scenarios, all the situations, all the people involved potentially, right? Second thing is this: does this really need to be solved, or can it be moved on? When you put it on paper, it's amazing where you go, golly, you know, I don't really need to solve that. It's really not that big of a deal, right? How many times have we gone through a transaction and we have what we think is a big problem, but then when you put it on paper, you're like, well, wait a second. This is about objections and I don't really need to solve this because we've already put our objections forward and now we're waiting for the resolutions to get through. In fact, what I need to do is I need to make sure that that the resolution period is fine, but I don't have to worry about the objection period right here. Right? Sometimes when you put it on paper, you actually figure out that you don't need to resolve the issue, at least not at this moment. Define the outcome that you want. This is so important, right? When I have people come to me and they say, hey, listen, I've got a problem. A lot of the times that I ask you is the question of this is like, so what's our solution? Like, what's our outcome that we want from the problem that you have right here, right? Because I need to know what path that we're going. You know, how many times have I asked you is, well, who do you represent, the buyer or the seller? In a situation, because it's important for me to know, like, who are we protecting? What's the outcome of the person that we really need to be careful and we need to be protecting on this, right? So write out and define what's the outcome that you want from the problem that you're going to resolve. And then what are the 5 micro decisions that you can make and need to make immediately, right? So what are the things? If you've defined the problem, you've found the solution of where you want to go with it, right? So let's just give a great scenario here, right? I'm under contract. I represent the buyer. The appraisal comes in short. I'm freaking out. I have no idea what to do, right? I've listed all the problems. I've listed out the scenarios, but then I've listed now, of course, what do I want? Well, I want us to get to the closing table. I want the buyer to be happy, and I want the seller to be able to be agreeable to us coming to a price that everybody can agree to, right? Like that would be a great result, right? Would everybody be happy with that? Can we get a raise of hands? Like, would we all be happy with that? Nobody else would be happy with it? I hope so. Anybody else? Chad, would you be happy with it? Okay, would you raise your hand, please? Thank you. Okay, so we'd be happy with that, right? Well, then we obviously, what are the decisions? What are the things that we need to do? What are the steps that we have to take? Well, the first thing is I have to do is, I'm going to call James, or I'm going to call Missy, I'm going to call Josh, and I want to give them the scenario here potentially, right? To make sure that I'm thinking through this correctly, right? That's a great first step. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Second thing is like, listen, if I represent the buyer, I'm going to call the buyer. I'm going to call the buyer and I'm just going to let him know, hey, listen, the appraisal did not meet value. What would you like to do? Right? Then the next step from there is, well, then you find that out, you write it out, and then you call the seller's agent. You let them know you didn't meet it, then you present that to them. You see how the basic steps will actually help get you to that finish line, right? So what are the 5 steps that you can take in order to get closer to your ultimate goal, which is to solve that problem? The other thing is who do you need to have involved, right? I'm reading a great book right now. It's called Who, Not How. Who, Not How. And the whole premise of the book is basically this, is like, unfortunately, we spend so much of our lives trying to figure out the how. How do I get that? And how do I get to the next level of income? How do I make myself an even better agent? How do I get to myself to do this? How do I break this ceiling? How do I How do I, right? And unfortunately, the how doesn't happen until you've actually experienced it, right? Until you've actually done it. Because then you reflect and you go, well, that's how I did it. I just started showing up. I just started making decisions. I just started whatever, right? It's the who that we need to be aware of. Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to get involved with it? Who's going to help me get to that next level? Who's going to help me break my ceiling? Who's going to, right? And anytime that you're doing a problem solving in your life, you've got to figure out who do you need to get involved in order for you to get one step closer to solving that problem. I will tell you, you'll have your breakthroughs, you have your biggest breakthroughs when you get the right people involved in helping you solve those problems. And the last thing here is this: is there a learning opportunity that you recognize as you've done this, right? Let's just say for instance, go back to the appraisal issue, right? We know that in the appraisal issue, one of the things that maybe we should probably do the next time is talk to our buyers at the very beginning of this and let them know, hey, we're going to go through a lot of things, a lot of negotiations through this entire process. And one of the negotiations potentially could be the fact that the appraisal might not meet value. So when I call you and I happen to tell you that maybe we didn't meet value, I don't want you to freak out or panic. I want you to know that's a part of the process. And unfortunately, we are seeing that in a very healthy market where sellers are constantly pushing the envelope and the price per square foot is continuously going up. Sometimes we will come across an appraiser that doesn't agree with our pricing. And that's okay, because our process is going to be this, right? Wouldn't it be better if maybe you recognize that the next time and have that conversation with your buyer, right? And so what can you apply so that it never happens again? And I just kind of went through that with you. You recognize, hey, listen, I'm going to have to talk to my buyers at the beginning of this. And then this is the process that I'm going to do, right? So it's going to be part of your listing presentation, or it's going to be a part of your buyer representation, right? Things like this will help you so that way when you have another problem like this come up, you'll be able to resolve it that much better and sooner.